Born silent among wolves, she was the packless Omega, no one wanted until the day she saved the Alpha King from a silver-poisoned death trap meant for a beast. What happened next shocked the entire Northern Territories, when he didn't just claim her, but gave her the most dangerous gift of all. A voice that could command alphas and bring kingdoms to their knees. The execution grounds of Ironmoor Fortress reeked of silver and fear. Riven pressed herself against the stone wall, trying to become invisible among the crowd of Wolfborn who had gathered to witness justice. Or what passed for justice in the Northern Territories these days. At 23, she had learned that being born without a howl meant being less than nothing in their world. Not quite wolf, not quite human, just wrong. The servant's mark on her wrist burned as she clutched the herb basket closer. She wasn't supposed to be here, but the healer's apprentice had fallen ill, and someone needed to collect moonbell root from the fortress gardens. "Bring forth the condemned," Commander Theon's voice boomed across the courtyard. Riven's breath caught as guards dragged a figure onto the platform. Even from her position at the crowd's edge, she could feel the raw power radiating from him, and Alpha's presence so strong it made every wolf in attendance bare their neck instinctively, everyone except her. She couldn't feel the pack bonds others did, couldn't submit or challenge. She simply watched as they hauled him to the silver-wrapped post. The prisoner was massive, his dark hair matted with blood, clothes torn to reveal deep gashes across his bronze skin. Silver chains bound his wrists, enough silver to kill a normal wolf within hours. Yet he stood tall, storm-gray eyes scanning the crowd with lethal calm. "Commander." "Behold," Commander Theon announced, "the traitor who claims to be the lost heir of Valdris. This pretender killed 7 of our soldiers trying to cross our borders." He paused for effect. "The sentence is death by silver poisoning." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Riven found herself studying the prisoner more carefully. There was something about the way he held himself, even in chains. The way other alphas in the crowd seemed to unconsciously lean away from him. A young soldier stepped forward with a silver-tipped spear, its point gleaming with liquid poison. One scratch from that weapon would send silver toxins straight into a wolf's bloodstream, a slow, agonizing death that no healing could stop. The prisoner's eyes suddenly locked onto hers across the courtyard. Riven's heart stuttered. In that gray gaze, she saw something that made her chest ache. Resignation mixed with a fury that promised if he died here, he wouldn't die alone. "Stop," she whispered, though no sound came. It never did. Her throat could form words, but no voice carried them. Another reminder of her defect. The soldier raised the spear, and Riven saw what others missed: a second assassin in the crowd. Silver blade aimed not at the prisoner, but at Commander Theon. A setup. Someone wanted chaos, wanted to spark war between the territories. Without thinking, Riven dropped her basket and ran. The crowd parted in confusion as Riven sprinted through them, her silence making her movement eerily ghost-like. No growl of challenge, no shout of warning, just a small, voiceless woman racing toward certain death. The assassin in the crowd had already begun to move, blade sliding from his sleeve. In seconds, Commander Theon would be dead, the prisoner would be blamed, and the Northern Territories would descend into chaos. 3 different packs would tear each other apart in the power vacuum. Riven reached the platform just as the soldier thrust the silver-tipped spear toward the prisoner. Without hesitation, she threw herself between them, her hands catching the poisoned weapon just below its deadly point. The silver burned against her palms. Wrong, but she held firm. The soldier stumbled back in shock. "What are you doing, woman?" She couldn't answer, couldn't warn them about the real threat. Instead, she spun toward the crowd, still gripping the spear, and pointed desperately at the assassin who had frozen mid-strike, his blade inches from Theon's back. "Seize him!" Theon roared, and guards swarmed the would-be assassin. The commander turned to Riven, his scarred face twisting with suspicion. "You saw this threat? Why didn't you call out?" Riven touched her throat and shook her head, the familiar shame burning through her. The crowd began to murmur with recognition. "The broken Omega," someone whispered. "The one born without a howl. Silverhand's servant girl." "Not even a real wolf, Commander." Theon's eyes narrowed. "You saved my life, Silent One. Name your reward." Riven looked at the prisoner, still chained to the post. His storm-gray eyes hadn't left her face since she'd intercepted the spear. This close, she could see the fever in his gaze, the way silver poisoning had already begun eating at him from the chains alone. He'd be dead within hours. She pointed at him, then pressed her hand over her heart in the universal gesture of mercy. "You want me to free him?" Theon laughed coldly. "This traitor? This pretender who claims to be Kaelen Valdris?" Riven nodded firmly, then did something that made the entire courtyard gasp. She knelt, not the submission of Omega to Alpha, which she couldn't perform without a howl, but the ancient gesture of life debt. One who saves a life may claim a life. The old laws, someone breathed. She's invoking the old laws. She's invoking the old laws. Theon's face darkened. Those laws apply to pack members. You have no pack, no standing. The prisoner spoke for the first time, his voice a deep rumble that seemed to vibrate through the stone itself. She has standing. Everyone turned to stare at him. By the laws of the first pack, he continued, each word careful despite his obvious pain, any wolfborn who prevents unjust death has the right of claim. She saved not just your life, Commander, but prevented a war. Honor the law, or prove yourself the usurper others whisper you to be. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Deny the ancient laws, and every pack in the Northern Territories would question Theon's authority. Theon's jaw clenched. "Fine. The silent Omega claims you." He gestured to his guards. "Release him into her custody. But know this, girl, his crimes are now yours. If he proves false, you'll burn alongside him." The guards unlocked the silver chains, and the prisoner Kaelen collapsed forward. Riven caught him instinctively, her small frame buckling under his weight. His skin burned with fever where the silver had touched him, and she could feel him fighting to stay conscious. "Foolish little wolf," he whispered against her ear, his breath ragged. "You should have let me die." But as Riven helped him from the platform, she felt something she'd never experienced before, a flutter in her chest, like a voice trying to wake. Riven's small quarters above the healer's workshop were never meant for someone of Kaelen's size. He took up most of her narrow bed, his fever-flushed skin stark against her threadbare sheets. She'd managed to half carry, half drag him through Ironmoor's winding streets, ignoring the stares and whispers that followed them. The silent Omegas lost her mind, she'd heard, taking in a condemned alpha. Now, working by candlelight, Riven carefully cleaned the silver burns that wrapped around his wrists like brands. Each time she touched him, that strange flutter in her chest grew stronger, as if something inside her recognized something inside him. Kaelen's eyes opened suddenly, focusing on her with startling clarity despite his fever. "You're not really broken, are you?" His voice was rough, weakened, but certain. "I can feel it, there's power in you." Locked away. Riven shook her head and pointed to her throat, then made the gesture for nothing that every wolf knew. "No." He caught her hand, his grip surprisingly gentle. "Not nothing, different." She tried to pull away, but he held firm, his thumb pressed against her wrist, right over her pulse point, and suddenly the world shifted. It felt like lightning under her skin, power rushing through her veins, in a way that should have been terrifying but instead felt like coming home. Her mouth opened in a gasp, and for the first time in 23 years, sound emerged. Just a soft exhale, barely audible, but real. Kaelen's eyes widened. "By the first moon," he breathed. "You're not broken, you're bound." Riven jerked back, the momentary voice disappearing as quickly as it came. She scrambled for her chalkboard, writing frantically. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," Kaelen said, struggling to sit up. "But someone did. Someone with very old magic bound your voice, your wolf, everything that makes you what you truly are." His eyes darkened. "The question is why?" Before Riven could write a response, heavy footsteps echoed up the stairs. Commander Theon entered without knocking, 3 guards flanking him. Touching scene. Theon drawled, eyeing how close Riven knelt to Kaelen's bed, the silent Omega playing nursemaid to the pretender. "I am no pretender," Kaelen said quietly. "And you know it, cousin." The word hung in the air like a blade. Theon's face went white, then red with rage. "My cousin died 15 years ago," he snarled. "Killed with the rest of the royal family, when the Shadowfell pack attacked Valdris. One son survived, Kaelen said. Hidden away, raised in exile, waiting for the right moment to return and reclaim what was stolen. His gray eyes burned with quiet fury. You were supposed to protect them, Theon. Instead, you opened the gates. Lies. But Theon's voice shook. You're a charlatan who learned some family history and… Kaelin's body suddenly contorted, and Riven watched in awe as he partially shifted something only alphas of royal blood could do. His eyes flared gold, fangs extended, and power rolled off him in waves that made even Theon's guards step back. I am Kaelen Valdris, he growled, his voice carrying the unmistakable timbre of an alpha king. And I've returned to claim my throne. Theon's hand went to his sword. Then you'll die for it. No. Riven stood, placing herself between them. She couldn't speak, but her intent was clear. Taff. Stand aside, girl, Theon commanded. This isn't your fight. But Riven didn't move. She'd claimed Kaelen under the old laws. His fate was now tied to hers. Theon's eyes narrowed. Very well. You have 3 days. In 3 days, he stands before the Council of Alphas. If he can't prove his birthright, you both burn. He smiled coldly. And a silent Omega can't testify on his behalf, can she? As Theon left, Kaelen collapsed back onto the bed, the partial shift having drained what little strength he had. Riven wrote on her board, "Why did you come back?" Kaelin's eyes found hers, and in them she saw not the arrogance of an alpha, but the exhaustion of a man who'd been fighting alone for too long. To find the truth about that night, he said, and to stop what's coming. The Shadowfell pack wasn't destroyed. They're planning something worse. That night, Riven couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the phantom sensation of Kaelin's touch on her wrist, the momentary liberation of her voice. She'd made sound. After 23 years of silence, she'd made actual sound. From her makeshift bed on the floor, she'd given him her only bed she could hear his labored breathing. The silver poisoning was getting worse despite her herbs. By morning, he'd be beyond her help. Unless… Riven sat up, remembering something the old healer who'd raised her had whispered before she died. Your gift isn't gone, child. It's sleeping. One day, when you need it most, it will wake. She'd thought it was delirium. Now she wondered. Creeping to Kaelin's bedside, Riven studied his fevered face. Even unconscious, he looked dangerous, all sharp angles and barely contained power. But there was something else too, a loneliness that echoed her own. Tentatively, she placed her hands on his chest, over the worst of the silver burns. She closed her eyes and reached for that flutter she'd felt earlier, that spark of something more. At first, nothing. Then, like water breaking through a dam, warmth flooded her palms. Not the healing magic of pack healers, something older, wilder. The kind of power that existed before packs, before laws, when wolves were spirits of the moon itself. Kaelin's eyes snapped open, pure gold in the candlelight. His hand covered hers, not stopping her but anchoring her as power poured between them. What are you? He breathed. The magic peaked and suddenly Riven could feel everything, his pain, his determination, his desperate hope. But more than that, she could feel the truth of his identity in his very blood. This was no pretender. This was the lost prince of Valdris, the rightful Alpha King. And underneath it all, she felt something else. A connection between them that had nothing to do with her claiming him at the execution grounds. It was older, deeper, the kind of bond the old stories called fate touched, power. The healing light faded, and Riven swayed, exhausted. Kaelen caught her before she could fall, pulling her against his chest. The silver burns were gone, leaving only faint scars. You saved me twice now, he murmured against her hair. Why? Riven pulled back to write on her board, but Kaelen caught her chin gently, tilting her face up to his. Try, he said softly. With me touching you, try to speak. His thumb traced her jawline, and that electric sensation returned. Riven opened her mouth, focused all her will, and managed a whisper so faint it was barely there. Because you need to live. Tears streamed down her face. 4 words. She'd spoken 4 words, Kaelin's expression shifted to something fierce and protective. "Someone stole your voice," he said. "But I swear to you, little wolf, I'm going to find out who and why, and I'm going to make them pay." A howl echoed across Ironmoor, then another, and another. Kaelen tensed. "They're coming," he said. "Theon's not waiting 3 days." Riven stood to run to the window, but the moment Kaelin's touch left her, her voice disappeared again. Through the glass, she could see shapes moving through the streets. Dozens of wolves, all converging on the healer's workshop. Kaelen rose from the bed, power rippling through him despite his recent healing. "They mean to kill us both and claim it was self-defense." Riven grabbed her board. "Back door, forest path. Can you run?" "I can fight." She shook her head firmly and wrote, "Too many. Run now, fight later." A shoulder hit the door downstairs. They were out of time. Kaelen shifted into his wolf form, massive, midnight black with those distinctive gold eyes. He was magnificent, every inch the Alpha King he claimed to be. He lowered himself so Riven could climb onto his back. As she wrapped her fingers in his fur, Riven felt that flutter again. Stronger now. Something inside her was waking up, calling out to be free. They burst through the back window just as Theon's wolves broke down the door. They ran through the night, Kaelin's powerful form eating up the miles while Riven clung to his back. Behind them, the howls of pursuit grew fainter but never fully disappeared. Theon wouldn't give up easily. As dawn broke over the mountains, Kaelen finally slowed, his sides heaving with exhaustion. They'd reached the wildlands, the unclaimed territory between the northern packs, where rogues and outcasts made their homes. Riven slid from his back as he shifted to human form, both of them collapsing by a stream. She immediately reached for her water flask, offering it to him first. "We can't stop long," Kaelen said between gulps. "But there's something I need to tell you about your voice." Riven looked at him questioningly. "The binding on you, it's royal magic. Only someone from one of the 5 founding bloodlines could have done it." He studied her face. "You don't remember your parents, do you?" Riven shook her head, then wrote in the dirt with a stick. "Old healer found me, baby. Silent. Found you where?" She wrote, "Valdris. After the massacre." Kaelen went very still. "The same night my family died?" Before Riven could respond, a new voice cut through the morning air. "Well, well. The lost prince and his silent savior. The lost prince and his silent savior." A woman emerged from the trees, tall, ethereal, with silver hair despite her young face. Power radiated from her in waves that made Riven's nascent magic recoil. "Lyra Shadowfell," Kaelen growled, immediately stepping in front of Riven. "I should have known you'd be involved." "Involved?" Lyra laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "Oh, my dear cousin, I'm not involved. I'm the architect." Her ice blue eyes fixed on Riven. "Hello, little sparrow. Still can't sing, I see, cower. My best work, really." Riven's world tilted. This woman had stolen her voice? "Why?" Kaelen demanded. "What could a baby have done to deserve—" "She was born," Lyra said simply. "Born with a gift that could have undone everything. Do you know what she is, Kaelen? What she really is?" "She's under my protection. She's a moon speaker." Lyra's smile was sharp as winter. "The first one born in 300 years. If she'd been allowed to develop normally, her voice would carry the power of the first wolves. She could command any alpha, break any bond, reshape the very structure of our world with a howl." Kaelen looked back at Riven in shock. "That's impossible. Moon speakers are myths. Your little mate is very real." Lyra's eyes glittered with malice. "Oh yes, I can smell the beginning of the bond between you. How poetic. The lost king and the silenced prophet. If you've come to kill us," Kaelen began. "Kill you? Why would I waste such useful tools?" Lyra circled them like a predator. "No, I've come to make a deal. You want your throne, cousin? I can help you get it." Theon was always a blunt instrument. "They King and the Tarred Channel sires. I'd rather die than ally with you." Pras. "How noble. But what about her?" Lyra gestured to Riven. "I could lift the binding. Give her back. Her voice, her power, everything she's been denied. All I ask in return is one small favor. Riven stepped forward, desperate hope warring with suspicion. Don't listen to her, Kaelen warned, catching Riven's arm. The moment he touched her, she felt it again, that spark of voice, of power. Interesting, Lyra murmured. Your bond is already breaking through my binding. True mate bonds are so rare these days. It would be a shame if something happened to disrupt it. She raised her hand, dark magic swirling around her fingers. Choose quickly, little sparrow. Your voice for your service. Or stay silent forever, and watch your mate die trying to protect you. Because make no mistake, without allies, Theon will hunt you both to the ends of the earth. Riven looked between Kaelen's furious face and Lyra's cold smile. Everything in her screamed that this was a trap, but the thought of having her voice back, of being whole, Kaelen. She picked up her stick to write in the dirt. What kind of service? Lyra's smile widened. Smart girl, nothing terrible. I simply need you to speak one truth at the council gathering. One truth that will change everything. Absolutely not, Kaelen growled for the 10th time as they made camp that night. They'd left Lyra with no answer, fleeing deeper into the wildlands, but her offer hung between them like a poisoned blade. Riven scratched words in the dirt with growing frustration. My choice. My voice. She's manipulating you. Whatever truth she wants spoken will destroy lives. Already destroying mine, she wrote, then immediately regretted it at the flash of pain in his eyes. You're not destroyed, Kaelen said softly, moving closer to where she sat by their small fire. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You saved my life without being able to call for help. You healed me with magic no one's seen in generations. You don't need Lyra's poisoned gift. Riven wanted to scream would have, if she could. Instead, she wrote, easy for you to say, you have voice. Then take mine. She looked up, confused. Kaelen took her hands, that familiar spark igniting between them. The bond between us, it's growing stronger. When I touch you, you can speak. We could make it permanent. How? She whispered, the word barely audible even with his touch. Complete the mate bond. His gray eyes were serious, intense. It would tie us together forever. My strength would be yours, your magic would be mine, and maybe, just maybe, it would be enough to break Lyra's binding permanently. Riven's heart raced. A mate bond was sacred, unbreakable. It meant belonging to each other in every way, body, soul, and spirit. She wrote quickly, you don't want that. Not with broken Omega. You're not broken, Kaelen said fiercely. And you're not just an Omega. You're a moon speaker. My equal in every way that matters. He paused, vulnerability flickering across his features. Unless you don't want me. Before Riven could respond, a howl split the night, not threatening, but formal. A summons. 3 wolves emerged from the darkness, bearing the marks of the Council of Alphas. The center wolf shifted, revealing an elderly woman with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes. Kaelen Valdris, she said formally. The council has been convened. Your claim to the throne will be heard at tomorrow's moonrise. Her eyes shifted to Riven. You are summoned as well, Silent One. As the one who claimed his life, your fate is bound to his. Elder Morwen. Kaelen stood, bowing respectfully. I thought the council wouldn't meet for 3 days. That was before we received this. Morwen held out a parchment marked with Lyra's seal. Lady Shadowfell has made a counterclaim. She says the Valdris line is cursed, that you carry madness in your blood. She offers proof. Kaelen's face darkened. What proof could she possibly? She has a witness. Someone who was there the night your family died. Someone who claims you were the one who opened the gates. Riven gasped, actually gasped, a tiny sound that made everyone turn to stare. Without Kaelen touching her, she'd made noise. Interesting, Morwen murmured, studying Riven with new attention. You're changing, child, the old magic stirs in you. She looked between them. A word of advice? Whatever Lyra offered you, don't take it. Moonspeakers who bargain with shadow magic never sing happy songs. After the council messengers left, Kaelen paced their small camp like a caged wolf. She's going to frame me for my family's murder. Riven caught his hand, pulling him down beside her. With his touch, she managed. We prove truth. How? I was 7 years old, smuggled out by loyal guards. I don't even remember that night clearly. Riven pointed to herself, then to her temple, then to him. It took him a moment to understand. Your magic. You think you could use your healing magic to restore my memories? She nodded, then wrote, dangerous. Might see things you don't want to remember. I need to remember, Kaelen said firmly. If it proves my innocence or my guilt, the truth needs to be known. Riven placed her hands on either side of his face, calling on the wild magic that had healed him before. But this time, instead of mending flesh, she reached for something deeper, the locked doors in his mind where trauma lived. The world exploded into memory. 7-year-old Kaelen hid behind a tapestry in the throne room, playing his favorite game of invisible wolf. His mother would pretend she couldn't find him, even though his giggles always gave him away. But tonight was different. Shouting echoed through the castle. His father's voice, angry and afraid, two things the Alpha King never was. Theon, close the gates, they're coming. I'm trying. His cousin's voice, younger but recognizable. The mechanism is jammed. Through a gap in the tapestry, little Kaelen saw his mother run in, her white dress billowing. Where's Kaelen? Where's my son? Hidden, his father said. The safe room, like we planned. But Kaelen wasn't in the safe room. He was right here, watching as shadows poured through the great windows, not wolves, but something worse. Shadow wraiths, creatures of dark magic that tore through their guards like paper. A woman walked through the carnage, untouched, younger, but unmistakably Lyra Shadowfell. She was smiling. Hello, cousin, she said to Kaelen's father. I've come for what's mine. The throne was never yours, Lyra. Your father lost it fairly. Fairly? She laughed. He was murdered, poisoned by your father to prevent our bloodline from revealing the truth. What truth? That the Valdris line carries no royal blood at all. You're usurpers, 3 generations of lies. Her smile turned vicious. But the little one, he's different, isn't he? His mother brought something special to the bloodline. Kaelen's mother stepped forward. You can't have him. I don't want him dead, dear cousin, by marriage. I want him broken, traumatized, guilty. Puppet King, I can control when he comes of age. Lyra gestured, and more shadows poured in. Kill the parents. Leave the boy alive to witness it. No. Theon burst in through a side door, not from outside where he should have been defending the gates, but from the inner castle. You promised no one would die. You said you just wanted to exile them. Lyra's laugh was like breaking glass. Oh, sweet, stupid Theon. You actually believed me? You betrayed your family for a promise from a Shadowfell? The horror on young Theon's face was absolute. I just wanted to be Alpha, you said. And you will be. Regent Alpha, ruling in poor, mad Kaelen's name until he comes of age, for time. Unless, of course, he never returns from exile. What happened next was chaos. Kaelen's parents fought viciously, but the shadow wraiths were too many. His mother saw him behind the tapestry at the last moment, her eyes wide with terror. Run, she mouthed, just before the shadows took her. Little Kaelen ran, his child's mind fracturing under the weight of what he'd seen. But as he fled, he heard Lyra's voice one more time. Find the boy. Don't kill him, we need him alive. But make sure he remembers nothing but guilt. Riven jerked back from the memory, both she and Kaelen gasping. Tears streamed down his face as the full truth crashed over him. Theon betrayed us, he whispered. But Lyra orchestrated everything. She wanted me broken and guilty so she could control me. Riven grabbed her writing stick with shaking hands. We have to tell council. They won't believe memories pulled by magic, and Theon will deny everything. Unless, Riven wrote quickly, he doesn't know you remember. Let him lie first. Kaelen's eyes sharpened with understanding. You're brilliant. He cupped her face, and with his touch amplifying her voice, she managed, at council, I will be your voice. The bond, he said suddenly. If we complete it tonight, your voice might be strong enough to speak the truth to everyone. Riven's heart raced. The full mate bond. It would change everything, tie them together irrevocably. But looking into his eyes, seeing the pain and hope there, she realized she'd already made her choice. She nodded, then wrote one more thing in the dirt. After we stop her. That night, under the crescent moon, they began the bonding ritual. But even as Kaelen's bite sealed their connection, even as her voice grew stronger, Riven couldn't shake the feeling that Lyra was watching, waiting, planning something worse. I am /in. Most werewolf story began with planning something worse. The great hall of the council hadn't seen such a gathering in decades. 5 packs, their alphas and witnesses, all crowded into the ancient stone chamber. At the center, 5 thrones sat empty, waiting for the council elders to take their seats. Riven stood beside Kaelen, her hand in his. Through their new bond, she could feel his tension, his determination, and underneath it all, a fierce protectiveness toward her. The mate bond hummed between them, not fully settled yet, but growing stronger with each passing hour. When they call on you, Kaelen murmured. Remember, you don't have to speak long, just enough to establish doubt. Riven squeezed his hand. Her voice was still weak, barely a whisper without his touch, but it was there. For the first time in her life, she had words ready to speak. The massive doors opened, and Commander Theon entered with his guard. His eyes found them immediately, widening slightly at how close they stood. So the rumors are true, he called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. The pretender has mated with the broken Omega. How desperate you must be, cousin. Not as desperate as a man who betrays his own blood, Kaelen replied calmly. Before Theon could respond, another door opened. Lyra Shadowfell glided in, resplendent in a gown of midnight blue. Her ice-cold eyes found Riven immediately. My offer still stands, little sparrow, she said sweetly. Your full voice for one small truth. She has her voice, Kaelen growled. Does she? Let's hear it then. Speak, Moon Speaker. Show us the power of your words. And Riven opened her mouth, but only the faintest whisper emerged. Without Kaelen's touch, she was still mostly silent. Lyra's smile widened. As I thought, a half-bond with a false king. How tragic. The council elders entered then, 5 ancient wolves who'd lived through centuries of change. Elder Morwen took the center throne, her wise eyes surveying the crowd. We are gathered to determine the true heir of Valdris, she announced. Kaelen claims his birthright. Commander Theon claims regency. Lady Shadowfell claims the throne by right of conquest. She paused. Let each present their case. Theon went first, his story well rehearsed. I was captain of the guard. I fought to protect my uncle's family, but the Shadowfell forces were too strong. Young Kaelen fled in the chaos, abandoned his family to die. A coward cannot be king. Liar. The word came from Riven's throat, stronger than before but still soft. Everyone turned to stare. That Omega wishes to speak? Elder Morwen asked. She has no standing, Theon protested. She's not even pack. She is my mate, Kaelen announced. And more than that, she's a moon speaker. Gasps rippled through the hall. The elders leaned forward with interest. Impossible, Lyra said smoothly. Moon speakers are extinct. Then, explain this. Riven stepped forward, and with enormous effort, began to sing. It was wordless, barely more than a hum, but the sound carried power that made every wolf in the room instinctively bare their neck. Even the elders looked affected. Kaelen. Enough proof? Kaelen asked. Prove it. Let her testify, Elder Morwen commanded. Riven took Kaelen's hand, their bond flaring to life. With his strength flowing through her, her voice came clearer. I saw his memories. Theon opened the gates. Lyra ordered. Lyra, the murders. She's lying, Theon snarled. A false mate bond, a weak voice, and suddenly she's a witness to events from 15 years ago? Then let's ask someone who was actually there, Lyra said smoothly. She gestured to the doors. Bring in my witness. The doors opened, and Riven's blood went cold. An elderly woman shuffled in, bent with age, but unmistakably familiar. It was Senna, the old healer who had raised her, who Riven had believed died 3 years ago. "Hello, little bird, Pete," the old woman said, her voice exactly as Riven remembered. "I'm sorry for the deception, but it was necessary." Riven tried to speak, but shock had stolen even her newfound voice. Through the bond, she felt Kaelen's rage. "Who are you, really?" he demanded. The old woman straightened, and suddenly she didn't look so old. Magic shimmered around her, revealing a middle-aged woman with Lyra's same silver hair. "I am Senna Shadowfell, Lyra's mother. And I've been watching over our little moon speaker since the night we bound her voice." She turned to the council. "I was there when the Valdris family died, and I can tell you exactly who killed them. My daughter speaks true," Senna Shadowfell announced to the stunned hall. "I was there the night the Valdris family died, but the story isn't what any of you think." Riven couldn't breathe. The woman who'd raised her, who'd sung her lullabies and taught her herb lore, had been her captor all along. Through the mate bond, she felt Kaelen's hand tighten around hers, anchoring her. "Tell them," Lyra commanded her mother, triumph gleaming in her eyes. Senna moved to the center of the hall. 23 years ago, a child was born to the Valdris line. Not to the king and queen, but to their daughter, Elena. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Elena had died young, unmarried. Elena had a secret mate, Senna continued. "A shadow fell. My son, Marcus. Their union was forbidden, but their love was true. They had a child, a daughter born with the mark of the moon speaker." Riven's world tilted. She wasn't an orphan, she was. "You're my cousin," Kaelen breathed. "You're the true Valdris heir." "No," Theon stepped forward. "Elena died without issue. The whole kingdom knows. The kingdom knows what we told them," Senna interrupted. "When the baby was born with the moon speaker's gift, both families panicked. A child with the power to command all alphas, born of 2 royal bloodlines? She would either unite the packs or destroy them." Elder Morwen leaned forward. "So you bound her voice." "We had to. Even as an infant, her cries could compel obedience. Full-grown alphas would kneel when she wailed." Senna's eyes found Riven. "Your parents loved you, child. Power. But they feared what you could become." "Where are they?" Riven managed to whisper, even without Kaelen's touch. The shocking revelations had somehow strengthened her voice. "Dead," Lyra said coldly. "Elena and Marcus died trying to protect you the night of the massacre. A massacre that wouldn't have happened if they'd just acknowledged you as heir." "You killed them because they had a child?" Kaelen's voice was deadly quiet. "I killed them because they lied," Lyra snapped. "They hid the true heir, made everyone believe the Valdris line ran through the male heir alone. Your father wasn't the rightful king, Kaelen. She is." She pointed at Riven. "The daughter of 2 bloodlines, born with the voice of the first wolves." "Even if this is true," Elder Morwen said slowly, "she was raised away from court, untrained." "She was raised by me," Senna interrupted. "I taught her everything except how to use her voice. I kept her safe, hidden, waiting for the right moment." "Waiting for what?" Riven's voice cracked, but it carried. "You let me believe I was broken." "I was waiting for you to be claimed by someone strong enough to protect you when your power manifested. Someone like the lost prince of Valdris." Senna's expression softened. "I didn't expect you to save him first, or for a true mate bond to form. That was unexpected." "Enough games," Theon snarled. "None of this changes anything. She's still voiceless, still weak." "Is she?" Lyra smiled. "Mother, remove the binding." "No." Kaelen stepped forward, but Senna was already moving, her hands glowing with silver light. "I placed the binding," she said. "And now, I release it." She pressed her glowing hands to Riven's throat. Pain exploded through her, worse than the night she'd found her voice with Kaelen, worse than anything she'd ever felt. It was like 23 years of silence, all screaming to be free at once. Riven's mouth opened, and sound poured out, not a scream, but a howl. A howl that shook the very stones of the great hall, that brought every wolf to their knees, that carried the power of mountains and moonlight, and the wild heart of the first pack. When it ended, Riven stood transformed. Her eyes glowed silver gold, power radiating from her in waves. And when she spoke, her voice was clear, strong, undeniable. I am Riven Valdris, daughter of Elena Valdris and Marcus Shadowfell, born under the blood moon, blessed with the voice of the first wolves. She looked at Theon, who cowered before her. And you, cousin, betrayed my family for power. Command him, Lyra urged. Make him confess. Show them what a moonspeaker can do. Riven turned to Lyra, and for the first time, the Shadowfell woman looked uncertain. You want me to use my power? Riven asked, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air itself sing. Very well. She spoke a single word in the old tongue, a word that bypassed thought and went straight to the soul. Truth. And across the hall, every wolf began to speak their deepest truths, whether they wanted to or not. The great hall erupted in chaos as wolves spoke truths they'd never meant to reveal. I cheated on my mate, Pi. I stole from the pack treasury. I've been working with the rogues. But the most damning confessions came from those at the center of the conflict. I betrayed them all. Theon's voice rose above the rest, his face contorted with the agony of forced honesty. Lyra promised me power, and I opened the gates. I let the shadows in. I watched my own family die for a throne I never deserved. Lyra tried to run, but Riven's voice held her fast. Stay. The Shadowfell woman froze, her body obeying even as her eyes blazed with fury. But the command had affected her too, and truth spilled from her lips. I orchestrated everything. The massacre, the binding, even raising you myself through my mother. I needed a moonspeaker under my control, someone with enough power to unite the packs under Shadowfell rule. She struggled against the compulsion but couldn't stop. I was going to mate you to my son, create a dynasty of darkness that would rule for centuries. And I helped her, Senna added, tears streaming down her face. I told myself I was protecting you, Riven, but I was a coward. I chose my daughter's ambition over your happiness. I let you grow up thinking you were broken when you were the most powerful wolf ever born. Riven released the command, and the hall fell silent, except for the sound of sobbing from those whose secrets had been laid bare. She swayed on her feet, the effort of commanding so many wolves at once draining her. Kaelen caught her before she could fall, his arms strong and steady around her. Through their bond, she felt his awe, his pride, and underneath it all, his love. You don't have to do this alone, he murmured against her ear. We're bonded. Your power is mine. My strength is yours. Elder Morwen stood slowly, her ancient face grave. The truth has been spoken. Theon Valdris, you are guilty of treason. Lyra Shadowfell, you are guilty of regicide. The sentence for both is death. But, wait, Riven said, her voice still carrying those strange harmonics. Everyone turned to her. I am the rightful heir, aren't I? Then I claim the right of mercy. You would spare them? Morwen asked, surprised. After everything they've done, death is easy, Riven said, looking at Theon's broken expression. Lyra's barely contained rage. Living with the truth is harder. I sentenced them to exile, but more than that. She stepped forward, power radiating from her. Quote, Theon, I command you to spend your life protecting those weaker than yourself, to never again seek power over others. Pauses. Every time you try to break this command, you'll relive the moment you betrayed your family. Theon fell to his knees, the binding taking hold. Yes, my queen. And you, Riven turned to Lyra, who valued power above all else, I strip you of it. Your magic is bound, as you bound my voice. You'll live as a regular wolf, no shadows to command, no darkness to hide in. Lyra's scream of rage turned to one of anguish, as silver light erupted from her, her magic tearing away like smoke in the wind. When it was done, she looked ordinary. As for you, Riven looked at Senna, the woman who'd raised her. You'll remember everything, every lullaby you sang to the child you kept imprisoned, every moment of love that was also a lie. That's punishment enough. Senna bowed her head, accepting the judgment. Elder Morwen approached Riven slowly. You have the voice of a queen, the mercy of a mother, and the wisdom of the ancients. Will you accept your birthright? Will you rule Valdris? Riven looked at Kaelen, her mate, her anchor. Only if I don't rule alone. Kaelen is as much the rightful heir as I am. We rule together, Or not at all. A mated pair on the throne, Morwen mused. It hasn't been done in 300 years. Then perhaps it's time, another elder said. The old ways aren't always the best ways. All in favor? Morwen asked. One by one, the elders raised their hands. Then the alphas in the crowd began to kneel, submitting not because Riven commanded it, but because they chose to. Rise, Riven said softly, her power gentling. I won't rule through fear or force. If you accept us, do it freely. We accept you, they said in unison. But as the celebration began, Riven noticed something alarming. Lyra was smiling. Even stripped of her magic, she looked triumphant. You think you've won? Lyra whispered. But a moon speaker's power comes with a price, Prase. The more you use it, the more it consumes you. Your own gift will be your destruction. Riven's blood went cold. Through the bond, she felt Kaelen's alarm. She's lying, he said firmly, trying to frighten you. But deep in her bones, Riven felt the truth of Lyra's words. The power was already hungry, already wanting more. 3 days after the council gathering, Riven stood on the highest tower of Kaelen Valdris, looking out over land she was meant to rule. Her voice had been returned, her birthright acknowledged, her mate by her side, everything should have been perfect. But Lyra's warning echoed in her mind as she felt the power stirring restlessly within her. You're brooding again, Kaelen said, joining her on the balcony. I can feel it through the bond. The servants bow when I speak, Riven said quietly. Not from respect, from compulsion. Even when I'm just asking for tea, there's power in my voice that makes them obey. You're learning control. It takes time. What if I can't control it? She turned to face him. What if Lyra was right? What if the power consumes me? Kaelen pulled her into his arms. Then we face it together. That's what mates do. A knock at the door interrupted them. Elder Morwen entered, her face grave. Your Majesties, she said formally, though her eyes were kind. We have a problem. She led them to the throne room, where a young wolf knelt, bloodied and exhausted. He wore the colors of the Eastern Packs. Speak, Kaelen commanded. The Shadowfell supporters. The messenger gasped. They've risen in rebellion. Power. They say the Moon Speaker's power is an abomination, that she'll enslave us all with her voice. They're marching on Valdris with an army. How many? Kaelen asked. 3,000. And growing. Every wolf who fears the Moon Speaker's power is joining them. Riven felt sick. They're afraid of me. They're being led by someone, Morwen said. Someone who knows exactly what buttons to push. My spies say it's a woman, veiled, calling herself the Silent Prophet. Through the window, Riven could see smoke rising in the distance. The war had already begun. I could stop them, Riven said quietly. One command. Stop. Kneel. Submit. I could end this before it truly begins. At what cost? Morwen asked. Every time a Moon Speaker has used their power for war, they've lost a piece of themselves. Your great ancestor, the last Moon Speaker, commanded an army to victory and lost her mind in the process. Power. Then what do I do? Let them destroy everything? Or find another way, Kaelen said. You're not just a Moon Speaker. You're a healer, remember? You saved me with that gift before you ever found your voice. Before Riven could respond, another messenger burst in. Your Majesties, the Silent Prophet, she's at the gates, quote. She's challenging the Moon Speaker to single combat. They rushed to the castle walls. Below, a lone figure stood before the gathered rebels. She was indeed veiled, but something about her stance was familiar. Riven Valdris, the woman called, her voice magically amplified. I challenge you. Face me without your voice, if you dare. Show these wolves that you're more than just a weapon of compulsion. The rebels took up the chant. Face her. Face her. It's a trap, Kaelen growled. You don't have to— Yes, I do. Riven straightened. If I use my voice to refuse, I prove their point, Prives. If I hide, they'll say I'm a coward. She walked to the gates, Kaelen beside her. As they emerged, the Silent Prophet removed her veil. It was Senna. But changed, her eyes glowed with an unnatural light, shadows clinging to her despite her daughter's magic being bound. Hello, little bird, Senna said sadly. I'm sorry it's come to this, but you have to understand the moon speaker's power is too dangerous. It destroyed your parents, and it will destroy you. My parents? Elena and Marcus were both moon speakers, Senna revealed, causing gasps from the crowd. Weak ones, barely able to compel a pup, but the power was there. When they had you, their gifts combined and created something unprecedented. You're not just a moon speaker. You're the culmination of generations of power. You're lying. Am I? Use your gift. Command me to tell the truth, and see what happens. Riven opened her mouth, then stopped. She could feel the power eager to be used, hungry to compel. And underneath that hunger, she felt something else, a whisper of madness, just waiting. No, she said simply. I won't use my voice against you, then you'll fall. Senna attacked with a speed that shouldn't have been possible for a woman her age. Dark magic crackled around her fists, not Shadowfell magic, something older and more terrible. Blood magic. Morwen breathed from the walls. She's using blood magic. The battle was brutal. Without her voice, Riven had only her healing magic and her wolf form, but Senna had come prepared. Every strike carried poison that burned like silver. Every dodge led into another trap. Riven was losing. She could feel it, see it in Kaelen's desperate expression as he was held back by the rules of single combat. Use your voice, someone shouted from the crowd. Compel her. The temptation was overwhelming. One word, stop, and this would end. But then Riven remembered something. She was a healer first, a moon speaker second. Instead of commanding, she began to sing. Riven's song started soft, wordless, carrying no compulsion, just pure emotion. She sang of loss, of finding her voice, of love, discovered in the darkest moments. She sang her story, their story, the story of wolves, divided by fear and united by hope. Senna faltered, the blood magic flickering around her fists. Stop, she whispered. Don't. But Riven continued, her voice growing stronger. Through the mate bond, she felt Kaelen's understanding. He began to howl, not a challenge, but harmony, adding his voice to hers. One by one, other wolves joined in. Elder Morwen's ancient howl, the guards on the walls, even some among the rebels. Each voice was different, but together they created something beautiful. A song of pack, of belonging, of home. No! Senna fell to her knees, dark magic dissipating. You don't understand the madness it took your mother. Elena commanded someone to love her, and when the command broke, when she realized what she'd done, it destroyed her. Marcus tried to save her with his own voice, but the madness took him too. Riven knelt beside the woman who'd raised her, still singing, but softer now. A lullaby Senna had once sung to her, back when the lies had felt like love. They died saving you, Senna sobbed. Used the last of their sanity to bind their own power into you, to give you a chance at control they never had. I was supposed to keep you safe, keep you silent, keep the madness at bay. But silence isn't safety, Riven said gently, her song becoming words. And power isn't evil. It's what we do with it that matters. Xiomara's. She stood, addressing the crowd of rebels. You're right to fear the moon speaker's power. It is dangerous. It could enslave you all. She took a breath. Which is why I'm making you a promise, here and now. I vow never to use my voice to compel unless the pack is in mortal danger. I vow to lead through choice, not force. And if I ever break this vow, if the madness ever takes me, Kaelen has my permission, my request to stop me. You would limit yourself? The silent prophet Senna looked up in amazement. You would have all that power and choose not to use it? Power without restraint is just tyranny, Riven said. I choose to be a healer who happens to be a moon speaker, not a moon speaker who happens to heal. She offered her hand to Senna. Will you help me? Teach me about my parents, about the gift, about how to not lose myself. Senna took her hand, and as she did, the rebels began to lower their weapons. The fear in their eyes was fading, replaced by cautious hope. The moon speaker has sworn an oath, Elder Morwen called out. Who will witness it? I will, Kaelen said immediately. And I, Senna added. And we, the crowd responded, rebels and loyalists alike. The oath took on the weight of magic, binding not through compulsion but through choice. Riven felt it settle into her bones, a willing cage for the dangerous gift she carried. Your Majesty, one of the former rebels called out. What of us? We rose against you. You rose from fear, Riven said. Fear, I understand. Return to your homes. Tell everyone that Valdris has a queen who speaks with many voices, healing, hope, and yes, power, but who chooses when and how to use them. As the crowd dispersed, Kaelen pulled her close. You could have ended it with a word. Why didn't you? Because you were right. I'm not just a moon speaker. I'm Riven healer, mate, and queen. The voice is just one part of who I am. And if the madness comes, then we face it together, she said, echoing his earlier words. That's what mates do. As the sun set over Valdris, Riven stood with her mate, her mentor, and her council, looking out over a kingdom that was learning to trust again. She had been born without a howl, raised without a voice, but she had found something more powerful than compulsion, the choice to use her gifts wisely. Sing for us, Kaelen requested softly. Not a command, just sing. So Riven sang a song of new beginnings, of voices found and choices made, of a silent Omega who became a queen, not through force, but through compassion. And across Valdris, wolves howled in harmony, not because they were compelled, but because they chose to. The moon speaker had found her voice. More importantly, she had found when not to use it. And in that balance between power and restraint, between silence and song, she found her true strength not as the Alpha King's mate, not as the most powerful moon speaker ever born, but as herself. Riven, whole at last. Her voice could command armies, break ancient bonds, and reshape the world. But her greatest power was knowing when to remain silent. The Omega who was born without a howl had become the queen who chose when to sing.